Hey there, Potterheads and clay enthusiasts! Ever wanted to carry a piece of Wizarding World with you? Today I'm going to show you how to create this magical Golden Snitch Keychain using air-dry clay. It's the perfect blend of whimsy and wizardry, and I've got some enchanting tips to make it truly fly off your keyring. Let's get started. Start with a golf ball sized amount of clay and add a dot of acrylic yellow paint to it. Mix well until you achieve the desired color. Dip your fingers into a bowl of water and add it to your clay if you feel like your clay is starting to dry out while mixing in the color. Now we're going to rip off a small piece of clay and start forming our two macaron feet, those round circles that are so characteristical for our macaron. I'm using a form to basically make sure that I always take the same size of clay, the same amount of clay. You can either use maybe a coffee spoon or some type of mold where you always stick in the same amount of clay and also retrieve the same amount of clay. This ensures that you always come out with an equal sized foot for your macaron. Next, you want to roll the clay into a small ball. Keep it dense and firm to make sure that you will get an even surface. And you will place it onto your acrylic block and squish it down with a second acrylic block. Squish it all the way down until your macaron foot has the desired circumference and diameter. And these same steps you will repeat for the other macaron foot. You can always take the first foot to refer to the second one. Just place it on top of the other over the acrylic block to see if they have the same size, just like that. Save any surplus clay. We will need it later. With the texturizing tool, we're now starting to create the characteristic lip of the macaron. As you can see, I'm basically sticking in the tool and then gently I'm pulling downwards and out to create that crust that a macaron actually creates when the almond dough is being poured onto a hot plate. And you want to do this fairly quickly because time is of the essence. The air dry clay obviously starts drying out. So you want to go ahead and work quickly your way around the macaron foot. If you do not own such a texturizing tool, you could basically take a sharp pair of tweezers, the one type of tweezers that are very pointy at the end, and then you could theoretically just stick them in and gently pull out minuscule amounts of clay. Here comes the fun part that is so important for our little snitch. We need to create very thin rolls of air dry clay, and those will be used like little snakes around the top of the first footer. So in essence, what we're doing is we're creating those swirls and swivels that can be found on top of the snitch. You will see what I mean in just a second. Just make sure that you form uniform logs of clay. You want to make sure they don't vary too much in size, or else it's going to look very, very janky, very weird. So what we're doing here is basically placing the log, I would say, on the outer third of the macaron in a almost like oval semicircle. And we will mirror this obviously on the other side as well. If you find it difficult to stick your little rolls of clay on top of the macaron, you can always use some wood glue. And you will also see me doing this later on because obviously the clay dries out as we work. And then it gets a little bit difficult to attach it to the prior air dry clay. By the way, silicone tip tools are always fantastic when working with air dry clay. They help you shape out whatever you're doing without disturbing the other clay underneath. And here you see me basically tapering in the ends of the clay rolls to make them more flush towards the edge of the macaron. And I'm really taking my time here, just gently patting and nudging. You never want to be too forceful with it. We will need another 4 more rolls of clay. Make them slightly thinner than the previous 2 because they will come on the inside of the already placed half circle that we created, the half circle pattern. And we will also need a tiny bit more for the top portion of the air dry clay macaron. At this point, I have decided to definitely outline the pattern with some wood glue because it will ensure a better grip of the little sausages that we just rolled. And you can also see where I will place the rolls. Grab some pointy scissors like embroidery scissors to snip off any extra clay. This is a very fast and easy way to make sure that you have smooth, clean edges. No snitch is perfect without a pair of wings. This is where the spare clay comes into play. Ah, see what I did there? It rhymes. Anyways, just snip off or pinch off 2 small pieces of clay and then hold them next to your macaron to gauge the size that you're yielding for. And then gently with your fingers form them into teardrop shapes, flatten them down with your acrylic blocks, and then use your fingers again to very carefully smooth the wings into a teardrop shape and then pinch it together on the rounder part as I'm doing here in the video. It's kind of hard to explain, but you can see how I tickle, slightly, like I would say pull, not really, like drag my fingers over the surface. Flatten them down, have a final look if this is the size and shape you want. To me, it looks perfect, well, almost. And next up, we will go ahead and texture those wings. With a needle, we will gently outline the curve of the wing. Feel free to trace it one more time if you feel like the grooves are not deep enough or visible enough. Then you turn the needle around at a 90-degree angle and gently press the needle from the curved line down to the other edge of the wing to create this feather type of pattern into the wing, just like I'm doing here. I'm also repeating it again on the first wing because I felt like some of the grooves weren't visible enough. Here comes the fun part. We are making the whipped cream by taking some marshmallow clay and adding a little bit of water. Just a teaspoon, that should be enough. If you don't happen to have any marshmallow clay, then you might get the same effect with some foam clay. I have not tried this yet, but it would be worth the shot. Anyways, Once you have mixed up your clay with the water, put it in a squeezy tube like this, like a cream squeezy tube. Actually, this one is a toy I stole from my kid. It is from, I think, a Play-Doh set. I'm sure you can find something similar wherever you live. Or check Play-Doh. Play-Doh also has accessories. Anyways, I am squeezing out a small amount and then I'm cutting it off with my embroidery scissors. And next, I am twisting this little cream puff into a circle so it fits the foot of our macaron. As you can see, this cream puff is truly puffy. So I will go ahead and just smoosh it down with the macaron foot that I made. Don't be too nervous. At least with my marshmallow clay, I know that the swirls from the squeezy tube do not get distorted or ruined by smooshing down the two biscuits on top of it. I'm not sure how it does with foam clay, but it holds the shape at least very nicely in my case here. And yeah, just gently run down the edges with your fingers if you need to blend it. Alrighty, here comes the bedazzling part. I'm just dotting a little bit of wood glue into the grooves of the cream puff, and then with tweezers, I'm adding individual rhinestones. I decided to take various shapes because I felt like it would look more interesting. At least that's how I feel. You can totally skip this part if you don't have any rhinestones or if it feels too razzle-dazzle for you. That's totally cool. I personally wanted to have a little bit bling bling. So in the next few minutes, you will see me adorning the cream puff with those fun little rhinestones. So what do you think? I'm done with the blinging. I think it looks pretty cool, especially if you decide to wear this snitch as a pendant. All right, I want to add a little bit of gold paint to my wings. That's also very optional. If you don't like it or if you're not into the metallic look of things, then you can totally skip this. For my purposes, I found it really cool. So I decided to just gently outline the edges and the feather pattern on the wings, as well as the top of the, what is it called? The top edge of the wing here. Please make sure before, if you decide to paint, please make sure to let the wing fully dry. The last thing you want is when it comes to the attachment, to touch the wet paint and then you will have fingerprints on top of your paint. That would suck. I mean, if that happens, you can theoretically paint it once more. However, let's just wait a little bit. Why do the extra work? It dries really fast, I have to say. The Posca markers are incredible. I've been using them for various projects now, and I can say that they are very dense and rich in pigment, and they dry very, very fast. Okay, so here I am attaching the wing with a piece of scrap wire to the cream puff section of the macaron. It's important you put it in there. And here you see me actually first inserting a needle because for some reason that piece of scrap wire was very not sharp. So I had to do a little bit of prepping. That's a tip. Like if you have issues piercing your clay, just use a needle before inserting the wire. Yeah, and that was super easy. Look at that. Ta-da! Isn't that gorgeous? I think it is. Now, you can totally stop here and call it a day. However, I wanted to make a pendant that is attached to a key that is attached to the findings of a keychain. So that's why I need to add a golden eye pin into the foam part, into the fluffy part of the macaron. And this will be further secured with some jewelry cement. Why do I need to do this? Very simply put, the clay is very squishy. It doesn't hold on to metal that easily. So you need either some super glue or jewelry cement to place around the hole to make the eye pin stick. All right, let's take our keychain findings. If you decide to go ahead with a keychain, and assemble the snitch to the chain. Okay, I'm cutting off 3 centimeters of the chain for my keychain. I don't want it to be too long. I'm not sure what that is in inch, probably like 1.5 or so-ish. Please don't fact check me on that. Do your own conversion. I'm sorry for my American friends. Okay, and then what we need to do is basically slink out the chain from the open link that we have here. Feel free to use a second pair of pliers because it is finicky. I know, it took me a lot of tries to film this. So trust me, be patient, it's totally worth it. Now, we will basically use the open link to attach to the eye pin. And then we're using our pliers to close it up again. No need to waste any material by using jump rings. And then we just take the other end of the chain, grab the top link, and we slink it onto the key ring here. And that's essentially it, my friends. There you have it. Here is your beautiful little macaron snitch with some razzle dazzle rhinestones or not, if you opted out, golden wings on a golden chain. I really hope that you like this tutorial. I'm actually planning on uploading 2 more Halloween clay videos with different themes, different types of finished results. I'm just teasing it here. I hope you will like them, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on the upcoming videos. Bye!